Welcome to Building Families, Bridging Differences, a family law journey.
Hello and welcome to Building Families, Bridging Differences, a family law journey with Shelly Cooley, founder of the Cooley Law Firm. I am your host today, Kevin Rosenquist, and this episode is Divorce with Dignity, Fostering Amicable Separations. Shelly, great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's talk about this here. So what are the key factors that contribute to a successful and amicable divorce, at least as amicable as it can be? And how can couples foster these conditions earlier in the process?
There's a couple different ways to divorce in Nevada and in many jurisdictions across the country. So I think we need to get into that a little bit before we get into amicable divorce. So you can go the uncontested route, which is both parties prepare and file a joint petition, and then that gets submitted to the court. All terms are agreed upon prior to filing. Otherwise, you can't go the joint petition route. On the other end of the spectrum, you have traditional litigation, where one party files a complaint for divorce, so they initiate a lawsuit against the other spouse. And that goes through the court process, which is oftentimes contested. Sometimes people go that route because they don't know any other way. Mm-hmm. So you can, with the right attorneys, often you can say, look, these issues are not even contested. We can resolve this. Let's pull this out of the litigation setting and get this resolved. And then we file what's called a divorce decree. Now, we have a newer type of process called amicable divorce, and that is a specific type of process. And it is semi-contested or uncontested. And the way that process works is both parties have to be committed to doing what's in the best interest of their children. Often they have children, and working through the process, no matter how bumpy it can get without litigation. Mm-hmm. And it is a commitment to let's do this so that we can separate and begin our lives separate and apart in the best way possible for everyone. Now, because of that commitment to amicable process and non-litigation, folks are part of what's called the Amicable Divorce Network. And this is the only organization in the U.S. that attorneys and other divorce professionals, you've got realtors, you've got financial planners. These are all folks that are amicable divorce professionals who have to apply, and then they get vetted, and they are offered admittance provided they agree to this process. And what the process is full disclosure. So disclosure of all assets, all debts, everything. And there's a fantastic program that we use that parties can upload the documents directly, which saves attorney's fees, time, costs, right? And then the two attorneys, both parties have to be represented by amicable divorce professionals. Both parties work with their attorneys to resolve the matter and to address division of assets and debts, child custody, child support, alimony, if that's an issue. And all of these assets get divided up, and we have agreements for the division of assets, parenting plans, everything. And then we submit that to the court once everything is said and done. And another great thing about the amicable divorce process is that there is support post-divorce as well.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, there are resources available to help parties adjust to their newly found single status. So it's a really cool process. I'm very excited to be one of the founding members of the Las Vegas chapter of the Amicable Divorce Network. And we've got a great group of attorneys and other divorce professionals. And it's an extremely effective way to divorce, and it saves time and resources, including money and emotional resources.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
divorce can be very, very challenging. So it's a very exciting way of divorcing in Nevada if you're going to divorce.
If you have to, yeah, may as well
Yeah,
be
yeah.
as smooth as possible. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Divorce isn't always a fantastic process, but this makes it as, I guess, palatable as possible.
Yeah. Smooth. Now, it
Yes.
sounds almost kind of like mediation. Is it different than mediation?
It is not mediation. Mediation can be part of it if we hit any snags that the parties and attorneys can't navigate through, then mediation is absolutely part of this process, and we have mediators through the amicable divorce process as well.
Okay.
So we have a lot of different tools in our toolkit at our disposal with people that are committed to this process so that we can help transition folks from married parties to single unmarried folks.
I've talked to a fair amount of family law people over the course of my career here at the Legal Podcast Network, and I never heard of this before, and I think it's refreshing. I mean, obviously, it's not always going to work because I don't need to tell you, a lot of divorces are highly contested, or very, very
I don't know that I actually agree with that.
okay.
And the reason I say that is the statistic is something like of all the divorces filed, and this is a national statistic if I recall correctly, 95% actually go to trial. So what that means is that yes, the divorce could be bumpy and there could be some fighting going on, right? That is part of this process. Oftentimes, that's why people decide to divorce. But ultimately, they end up resolving the issues through the help of counsel or mediation or themselves, right? They come to an agreement together. So it's only 5% of those cases that are truly contested divorces where there's a ton of fighting.
Okay.
And in my opinion, and this is anecdotal, this is just my opinion, but if you have a well-drafted divorce, meaning you have specific terms regarding division of assets and debts, you've got specific terms regarding child custody and child support and how all those issues are going to work, then once you're divorced, it decreases the likelihood that you have to go back to court because you have your roadmap for navigating your post-divorce life. And amicable divorce is a great way of doing that.
I would imagine a big part of, obviously, of an amicable divorce would be effective communication between the parties, which is sometimes difficult. How do you kind of help, your clients? What kind of strategies do you recommend for couples to maintain that open dialogue?
Well, oftentimes, and with an uncontested divorce, I absolutely agree with you. It's important for the parties to be able to effectively communicate because they're essentially negotiating the terms of their divorce before they even file, right?
Right.
They have
Yeah.
to agree to all terms. They sign the joint petition, we file that, and then we submit that to the court. With an amicable divorce, it's more important for the professionals to be able to effectively communicate. And that's part of the reason why professionals are vetted in this process.
Hmm.
Is we want to make sure that we have folks that are truly committed to this process and not just looking for another organization for advertising purposes or whatnot. So when you think about this process, think about it's the professionals that are the most amicable, right?
Okay.
We're
Yeah.
professionals. We know how to communicate. We know how to navigate divorce, and we help facilitate that process with our clients and kind of help lead the way with our clients so that they can go through this process and we can help them find peace with their decision to divorce.
Okay. It's a very cool idea. I mean, it's really cool. And you said you were one of the founding members of the Nevada chapter. What about it did you go was kind of a light bulb in your head where you were like, this is good. We should do this.
I have always been an attorney who looks at divorce more practically. I'm very much a let's look at this situation. Let's see what things are contested, what things are uncontested. And then the things that are uncontested, we start working on getting those resolved. So I have a very practical approach to divorce. And sometimes what people want in divorce is not necessarily what a judge would do. And with the amicable divorce process, that's something that can be done, or the uncontested process.
So obviously financial concerns are a big part of a divorce every time. How can couples address the financial concerns collaboratively during an amicable divorce to ensure that there's, fair and equitable agreements?
I think the foundation of that is what the law says. In Nevada, the law says that assets and debts have to be divided just and equitably. That is the, family court is a court of equity. So fairness, just are extremely important concerns. So when we are dividing assets and debts, it really is as simple as math.
Mm-hmm.
We that's why we use this program. To Everything gets uploaded, all of the asset and debt statements, and then we start playing with the numbers so that when we get to the bottom of the chart, each party is getting approximately the same amount of assets and debt.
Okay.
So that is very much important.
Yeah.
You would think that it wouldn't be, you would think, oh, super easy math, right? If it were purely a let's list everything and divide them up, yes, down the middle. But what we try to do is we try to look at, well, this asset is in this party's name, or this asset is really important to this person. How do we equalize the divisions so that when we get to the bottom, it's approximately equal?
Mm-hmm.
So, it may not look, based on how who's getting what, that it's equal, but at the bottom, if you're going to take more assets, you're going to take more debts. And, with debts, you need to make sure that, if possible, it's not always possible, but that the debts go with the person whose name they're in. Because while you might have a beautiful decree of divorce that says, this asset is in, this party's responsibility, creditors don't necessarily honor that.
Yeah, understood.
So,
They want their money.
and then, right. And then
Yeah.
you've got, also you've got to look at bankruptcy issues.
Yeah.
If a party files for bankruptcy and, the debt isn't in their name, they can't discharge of that debt. So,
Right.
there are a lot of really practical considerations that we have to make when we're figuring out which asset and which debt goes with whom. And then, sometimes you have to get really creative as how to equalize.
When it comes to the parenting plan, do you find that it's easier or smoother to create the parenting plan using the amicable structure?
Yes. And the reason I say that is oftentimes parents will come to you and they will say, this is what we want to do. This is our schedule. This is how we want to, have our time with our kids. And you look at the schedule and you're like, oh dear, there's a lot of potential issues here. Sometimes parents don't want to go more than 24 hours without seeing their children.
Right.
So they want to do exchanges every single day. That long term is extremely difficult
I
on
can only
parents
imagine. Oh my
and
goodness.
children. Yeah,
Yeah.
not a good idea. Unless you're dealing with a little tiny baby, then otherwise never a good idea.
That's
Ever.
hard on the kids too, like just that constant everyday change.
Right.
I
And
know
that's
kids are adaptable, but that's a lot.
it is a lot. And also, unless these parents are best buddies, right?
Right.
There's going to
Yeah.
be some tension with the exchange, which impacts the children,
Yeah. Do
which
you
is
want to see your ex every day?
no,
How
I
about
never want to see my exes ever again.
that?
That's my goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, that is something that, talking to, a professional, you say, look, this is not going to be, good for you. This is not going to be good for the children. Most importantly,
Mhm.
let's do exchanges at school. So one parent drops off at school, the other parent picks up after, on the exchange day or days that is agreed upon. So that way the kids have the entire day to adjust to, okay, I was at one parent's. after school, I'm going to be at this, at my other parent's house. So that way the kids and everyone has time to adjust to what this is going to be.
Right.
So, working with a professional, it can help you avoid a lot of pitfalls that is going to wind you back up in court 6 months later because you've agreed to this schedule that really isn't workable long term.
As we wrap up here, what advice would you give to individuals who are struggling to maintain a peaceful relationship with their spouse during the divorce process?
I really think that what they have to do is remain focused on the children and what's best for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you want this parenting relationship to be, in 10 years? Because that really is what this is you're separating, but you have kids together. And a lot of people say, once they turn 18, I'm done with my ex. I never have to deal with again. Not true.
Yeah.
You'll have weddings.
Nope.
You potentially will have grandchildren.
Graduation.
There will be all of these events that you're going to have to interact with your ex with. And what do you want that relationship to be long term? And just focus on what's best for your children.
I think that's excellent advice. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to Building Families, Bridging Differences, a family law journey with Shelly Cooley. To connect with Shelly and her team, head to CooleyLawLV.com. And please like and subscribe to our channel and leave us a review. Really nice chatting with you, Shelly. I appreciate all the insight.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.